Okay, let's do an experiment with a nail drill and a sanding bit. My toes are starting to get thick around the edges because it's been a couple of weeks since I trimmed them up, and it gets a little uncomfortable the thicker that it gets. So let's try it out with the nail drill and sanding them down as opposed to clipping them. Here's a nail drill that I have. I use it for taking down my gel nail polish when I redo my nails. I'm going to start just on this one toe. It's taking off a thin layer, although I'm struggling to get the skin on the sides of my toes where it basically always stays damp. This is partly because I sweat on my feet, but also because I moisturize them all the time. So I'm like struggling to get the edges. I seem to be able to go over it and not have it take it down. Versus here is my other toe, and I'm going to clip it with the hangnail clippers. To do the sanding of the first toe, it took 1 minute and 40 seconds. And to do the hangnail clippers on this other toe, it took 1 minute and 45 seconds. So basically the exact same amount of time. But look how much pinker and lower that callus got on the second toe. Now, for extra proof as to why I prefer clipping, I'm going to come in and use the hangnail clippers on the toe that I just sanded, and you can see how much more comes off. I know it might look sensitive and uncomfortable to have it so pink, but actually that's the lowness or the thinness of the callus that I prefer. I actually have contact with all my nerves and sensation in my toes. Look how much better that is. Let's come in and try to do the big toe. So much dust coming off of this. This is another reason maybe I don't prefer sanding, but you can see around the edges, it struggles to get up much. Around the middle where it's drier, it is making some good progress. Took me a few minutes to do this toe, which is why everything's so sped up. But besides the messiness, it's noisy, so I just don't like it that much. It's doing an all right job. But let's come in with the callus shaver and see how much more we can get off. Look at this. So if I were to try and sand it down to get it to a level where I prefer it with the sanding tool, I would have to not only let it dry out much drier than I would prefer my skin to feel, but then I would have to sand and sand and sand and sand to try and get down to the level that I can get to pretty quickly with the callus shaver. So there you go. I really just prefer shaving it off because it works great. And for your viewing pleasure, you can see me do the rest of the toes here. I'm just going to get them really quick with the hangnail clippers. Some people say they couldn't stand the bumpiness that clippers can leave, and it can be bumpy if you're not kind of precise like I'm being. I do work really hard to get it to an even level, even though I'm clipping. And also I find that after just a few hours, the skin kind of levels itself out. I don't know how to describe it other than that, but wherever it might have a little bit of ridges, it will actually get pretty smooth after just a little while of relaxing into the softer skin. And so it doesn't bother me. Works for me.